Yes, ma'am, we are live now.
Okay, so a very warm welcome and regards to all my respected seniors, faculties, and dear friends. I extend a warm welcome on behalf of the AMOX Medical Legal Committee, and we are beginning with the second session, the second season of Medical Legal Premier League. And today we have stalwarts from the medical legal field amongst us, and we have esteemed faculties and guests who have been so humble to accept my request and join in spite of their busy schedules. Uh, Thank you, Kiran sir, especially for guiding me, encouraging me, and motivating me to take up these projects and for encouraging me to start with the webinars. I am thankful to Jyoti madam. She is like an elder sister and a guide. She has accepted my request. Uh, I am thankful to Shamal Seth sir also, who have honored as the guest of honor, who has accepted my request. And most importantly, Dr. Neeraj Nagpal sir and Anita Sabarwal madam. In spite of their busy schedules, they have accepted the request to give a talk on this platform. I'm also honored to have with us today Dr. MC Patel sir as the moderator of the important panel, as well as important chairpersons like Dr. Girish Kumthekar sir, who has uh, accepted my request, and Dr. Minakshi madam, she will be joining soon. Dr. Manisha Ghate madam and Dr. Varsha Ghate madam, they are also here with us. So without wasting much time, I would request Amruta to start with the session. Amruta?
Yes. Good evening, all of you. So, should we start first session, madam?
No, we need to introduce Kiran sir. Yes.
So, Yoga ma'am, thank you for allowing me to be the convener of this series, and I invite you to please inaugurate this webinar and then introduce our chief guest, Dr. Kiran Kutputty, sir.
Okay. Can you play the music, Bhavna? The inaugural music? The prayer song. Bhavna?
Ma'am, the prayer song is not playing in this. Can we continue with the session?
We will start. Let us, I think, Dr.
Okay,
Suyaka,
okay.
let us start.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay,
Well,
sir.
at the outset, a very warm welcome to all of you on behalf of Amox, and I would really appreciate Dr. Suyoga for having this wonderful webinar. Today's guests of honor, Dr. Jyoti Banglowala, Dr. Shamal Seth, my very close friend from Foxy. Jyoti, of course, although you are right now in MP, I know you are a very hardcore Maharashtrian from Nasik, and thank you for being there as a guest of honor. And Shamal Seth, my I think my go-to person whenever any issues of MTP come up, because he was the chairperson of the MTP committee after me. So Dr. Shamal, welcome on this platform. And Suyoga, you really brought the entire nation on this Amox platform. We have Dr. Anita Sabarwal and of course Dr. Neeraj Nagpal, and later on none other than the giant Dr. MC Patel. So thank you for this webinar, and we look forward to a lot of medical legal problem solving sessions, and I would request you, as we have discussed, to start a medical legal helpline or email.
Yes.
And definitely in the months to come, I would encourage you to form to publish the AMOX focus on medical legal issues. So you have all all the stalwarts who will be contributing to this booklet, and I would request all of you who are present right now to be contributors to various chapters which Dr. Suyoga will shortly release and from the Amounts platform. So thank you all of you and welcome on behalf of Amounts to all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Over to you, Amruta.
Thank you, sir. So, our next session is laws that the medical practitioner should abide by.
Amrita,
By
wait, we need to introduce our guest of honor today. Our first guest of honor is Dr. Jyoti Banglawala, madam. She is the chairperson of the Ethics and Medical Legal Committee, FOXY. She has over 28 years of experience now, and she is also a medical legal advisor. She has been the vice president of the Indore OBGYN Society,
Thank you.
and she has held various posts in the society. And she is the go-to person for whatever I need. An ever smiling and an ever inspiring personality, ma'am. We welcome you, and we wish that you could share some pearls of wisdom with us.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you very much. At the outset, I want to thank Dr. Kiran Kutkoti sir for taking this AMOC to this height, and especially Dr. Suyoga Panath, the Medical Legal Ethics and Medical Legal Committee chairman of AMOCs. She's doing a lot of good work, and I am even actually waiting for her Medical Legal Monday flyers. And I am the one who is actually spreading all over these flyers, and everybody is saying, Madam, Dr. Suyoga is doing so much. The other one is Dr. Monica Umbardhan. Whatever work we can give to Monica and Suyoga, it will be done. This is just like it will be done. And I am very happy to share the stage with Dr. Kiran Kurkoti sir and Dr. Shamal Seth, who is just like elder brother, all our seniors, and I'm looking forward to listen Dr. Neeraj Nagpal and Anita madam and Dr. MC Patel sir, who actually taught me actually many things, and Girish Kumtekar sir. I'm actually fan of Girish Kumtekar sir and my all the senior Varsha, Manisha, Kalpana madam. I just want to tell just no nothing miss. I'm just like you, not that much experience, but the mindfulness of the obstetrician that teaches the obstetrician to go away from the litigation. When you know about law, you just a few points about the law. If your mind is open about the law and even you are just familiar to particular law you are working with obstetrics, then it is actually good for you. And this type of webinars, when Neeraj sir or MC Patel sir or Anita madam, even if you see the judgments, even you just read the main four points of the law, you actually know what to do and what not to do. And this will help you in the long term. It is not like just we are listening, what is death on the table. It is not our patient is going to die next day. But when we listen to MC Patel sir and when this critical patient come to us, we know what type of documentation we need to do, what type of consent we should take from the attendants or even the hospital staff, or if the patient is not in the condition or if the patient is not having any attendance with him or her, whom to take consent from, whom to take, means all the things. This type of webinar actually the need of ours, and I'm so thankful, Suyoga, for giving me this honor to attend this type of webinar. Thank you very much, and very best of luck for the coming medical legal series. I think it is the series 2, season 2 and series 3 actually. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. You've already seconded our thoughts that ignorance of law is not an excuse. With this, we like to introduce our next guest of honor, Dr. Shamal Seth, sir. Dr. Shamal Seth, sir, is a consultant practicing at Kolkata, and he's a medical legal advisor. He's been the vice president of the Bengal OBGYN Society, and he is the vice president of FOXY elect the next year. He's a medical legal expert, was a past MTP committee chairperson, and he has been the go-to person in the Northeast zone for any medical legal advice. We welcome you, sir, and we request you also to share your words with us.
Thank you very much, Monica, and thanks to Dr. Suyoga and to all my friends from FOXY, the stalwarts in medical legal fields, like Dr. Kiran Bhai, Dr. MC Patel sir, Dr. Jyoti Banglawala, Dr. Neeraj Bhai. And Neeraj Bhai is also very close to me because he happened to attend few of my medical legal programs in Kolkata, which I organized. And the most important thing is that litigation is on rise, and it will continue to rise. Whichever efforts we do give, whichever or in whichever way we try to prevent it, okay, these are preventable, no doubt. But yes, the incidences will be rising, no doubt about that. There are several reasons. And the topics which have been selected for today's webinar, I must congratulate the person. I must salute. Absolutely to the point, pertinent topics like one should abide or follow the law. One should abide by the law, because already said, ignorance of law is no excuse. One should know the law, what the law wants, and then go ahead with your medical procedure. The other one is the panel, which is going to be moderated by none other than Dr. MC Patel. Death on table. Unexpected death is unfortunate for anybody. We as doctors, or for the patients, their relatives, a hospital, whichever it is, for the society as well. But not all deaths on OT table are due to negligence on the part of the doctors. So we need to be very careful what to do, what we should be at each and every step when we take a patient to OT. All those processes, counseling, discussions, alternative methods, taking proper consent. So everything is very pertinent to the topic. And another topic. What is the another topic? Can you please?
Judgment.
I think, yes, landmark judgment. Madam Anita Sabrawala is going to speak on that. You know, medical fields have been brought into the Consumer Protection Act with that landmark judgment of IMA versus VP Santa. And there are several landmark judgments which are against the doctors and which are favorable for the doctors. Like favorable are like the Jacob Mathew versus State of Punjab. That was a very favorable one, because the concept of FIR and arrest by the police has changed a lot after that. And similarly, the other things, a great eye-opener for us is the case of Samira Kohli versus Prabha Manchanda. So all these things are going to be discussed. I believe whoever is attending the program will be benefited. As far as medical legal issues are concerned, we need to be careful, not panicky, just to follow the basic ideas and basic rules and norms of the land of the law and of the law of the land, and go ahead with the medical procedure, what the way it should be done. That's the basic principle. Thank you very much. I believe you are going to make a hugely helpful program out of this webinar. So best wishes to all the speakers and the moderators and the panelists.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, Shamil sir and Jyoti ma'am and Kiran sir for gracing the occasion. We would also like to thank our faculties, Neeraj sir, Anita madam, and MC Patel sir, who have agreed to spare their valuable time with us. Also, our chairpersons, Girish Kumtekar sir, Manisha Ghate madam, Varsha Ghate madam. Thank you for accepting our invitation. I would declare the inauguration is now over, and I request Dr. Amruta to please take over the first session.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Good evening, all of you. So we will move forward with the first session, laws that a medical practitioner should abide by Dr. Neeraj Nagpal sir. And to chair this session, I request Dr. Kirish Kumtekar sir and Dr. Meenakshi Deshpande ma'am. So I welcome you all.
Meenakshi madam will join soon.
Yes.
You can
So,
introduce Girish sir and Meenakshi madam as well.
Dr. Girish Kumtekar sir, sir is consulting obstetrician, gynecologist, infertility specialist, and medico-legal consultant since 35 years, and infertility practice since 15 years, and medico-legal practice since 22 years. Owns a private 12-bedded maternity hospital in Solapur, partner in Pioneer and state-of-the-art IVF Center, Navjivan Fertility and IVF Center, Solapur. Member of Medical Legal and Ethical Committee, Foxy. Past member of Medical Legal Committee, IMA State Branch. Past president of Solapur OBGY Society. And faculty at AICUG, Aurangabad, Jaipur, Guwahati, Yuva Foxy, Amok, Solapur, Pune, Nashik. He is giving guidance and lectures to various member bodies of Foxy and other society specialty associations since last 20 years on how to prevent medical legal litigations and remedies thereupon. It has helped innumerable colleagues in fighting the litigations. So welcome, sir. I hand over to Dr. Girish sir here onwards. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Amrita. Thank you very much. I think I am audible. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Suyaga, for getting me involved. Actually, I always like to participate in such events. And well, last 1 year, because of my family commitments, are not available for many of the organized conferences and webinars. I am thankful to all those who are present here. Shamal, I must say sorry to you because you had invited me to Bengal Obstetric conference, but I could not come because of my family commitment. But anyway, now I am free and ready to help all and participate in all possible webinars. Thank you, Suyaga, again. So far as Neeraj, I know him personally well. He had been to Solapur twice. He is one, what you can say, is a fighter in our community. He has been persistently filing, looking after the judgments, taking pitfalls from it and trying to correct them, representing our society, our colleagues to the government in all possible ways. And he has been trying to help our colleagues with various approaches he has towards the court, towards the society, towards everything. And I must say, I welcome Dr. Neeraj, and he's always informative. His blogs are always informative. And dear friends, we are really eager to hear him. So I directly hand over to Neeraj. The introduction is in front of you, and I request Amruta to introduce him. Thank you.
Yes, sir. CV, please. Bhavna. Dr. Neeraj sir, consultant physician and GI endoscopist, chairman and managing trustee MLAG, ex-president IMA Chandigarh State Branch, director of Hope Gastrointestinal Diagnostic Clinic Chandigarh, member of ASG, ESG, ISG, INASL, SGEI, fellow International Medical Science Academy, Indian Society of Gastroenterology. Member editorial board Indian Journal of Cutaneous and Aesthetic Surgery, member editorial board of Journal of Indian Medical Legal and Ethics Association, books edited, compendium of CPA Medical Judgments, volume 1 1995 and volume 2 2004, book chapter Medical Legal Aspects of Dermatology and Plastic Surgery. Published multiple research papers in international and national journals.
Let's start the introduction. Time is short, so let's go straight to the topic. Sorry, I'm cutting you short, but I don't know ये slide कहाँ से चली गई आपके पास. Normally, my introduction is very short and sweet. डॉक्टर है, मोटा है, शादीशुदा है, रोता है. रोने के अलावा कोई काम नहीं मेरा. Dr. Shamal, before I start my talk, I will request you in future never to refer Jacob Matthew judgment as a favorable judgment. Why do I say that? Because prior to Jacob Matthew judgment, criminal prosecution of doctors was nearly impossible. Jacob Matthew judgment gave a roadmap on how to criminally prosecute doctors. All right, it protects us to some extent, or at least the police officials say. But personally, if you ask me, and someday maybe we will debate it on some platform, but I do not think Jacob Matthew has helped doctors. It has harmed us more. So anyway, let me go straight jump to my talk for today, which was, I was assigned that laws applicable to gynecologists, and the only thing I can say is that all doctors in India are criminals, since all of us break the law. Now let me see if I can be any less provocative than this. If you really want to see what are the laws which govern medical practice, I have segregated them into certain parts. There are laws which govern safety of patient, public staff within hospital premises. Things like Explosives Act, you may never have heard about it. Things like Arms Act. These are all radiation surveillance procedures, AERB security. The Jan Vishwas bill, which was passed in 2023, decriminalizing many sections of different acts, also comes in this section. Then Indian Penal Code, or as today we have the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, various sections in this, the Fire Act and the NOC which needs to be taken from the Fire Office, Lift Act and complying with the regulations under the Lifts Act, petroleum storage rules, even spirit, how you store, that is governed by certain acts, and we need to follow those. Food Adulteration Act, Indian Fatal Accidents Act, State Medicare Services Personal Institutional Prevention of Violence Act. Governing environmental safety, we have Air Act, Biomedical Waste Handling Rules, and Water Act. All these three are nearly impossible to completely follow. And when acts are made in such a convoluted fashion that normally law-abiding person is not able to follow them, even though he has full intention of following it, that is the situation where this Inspector Raj comes in, and you have people walking into your clinics and telling you how you have broken the law so that their palms can be greased. There are many other acts in this environmental safety. Noise pollution control rule. I mean, we may not be aware, but at least in Chandigarh, if you put on the generator, if the generator came on before 6 o'clock in the morning, after 10 p.m. and 6 o'clock in the morning, I mean, the police would be informed. And the police would come and object, you stop it, irrespective of the fact that the nursing home was approved by the Capital of Punjab Development Act. And but since it was in a residential area and the rest of the houses were in residential all around it, so even though the plot was converted into nursing home site, the police would come and object to generator being run, even though you are performing a cesarean at that time in the night. So these are the kind of things we face, and that is why I say all of us are criminals and we break the law. Similarly, laws governing sales, storage of drugs, safe medication, drugs and cosmetic acts and rules. This is to be changed now. New draft law was brought in, but again withdrawn. I don't think it has been notified, re-notified. But in case I'm wrong, I'll stand corrected if somebody can point it out to me. The blood regulation, blood bank regulation, then Sales of Goods Act, Narcotics, Psychotropic Substances Act. So many acts you have to follow if you are keeping, storing drugs, manufacturing drugs, selling drugs, or just keeping them to use in your own patients. Regarding management of patients, you have birth and death registrations, Drug and Magic Remedies Act, Guardians and Wards Act, Indian Lunacy Act. I mean, you can carry on and on and on, including the epidemic diseases and disaster management acts which we faced during the COVID. PCPNDT, MTP, assisted reproductive technologies, all these you are well aware of as you have been bombarded with knowledge by Foxy over the years regarding these acts. Then very important is laws which govern employment and management of the manpower. We do not realize that if you have as little as 4 employees, you still need to register under Indian Apprentices Act if you are taking people, training them to do certain things. And if you are having unqualified people whom you are training, let us say to do ECG or for whatever, for monitoring patients. So my point is, there is no way any doctor in India today is not breaking at least one law. There are so many laws, and it is impossible not to break one of them if you wish to practice. There is Minimum Wages Act, there is PPF Act, Shop and Factories Act, the ESI Act, TDS Act, Workmen's Compensation Act. And governing your professional activities, of course, we are all aware of these: Consumer Protection Act, Indian Evidence Act, and Law of Privileged Communication, Law of Torts, and IPC or BNS, as we say. Regarding qualification, practice, and conduct of professionals, again, you can see there are so many acts. When you have a nursing home, if you are providing a TV, if you are providing intercom, there are many acts you need to register under and follow the regulations. Then, when you want to start a hospital, you need to follow all the provisions which have been given under Clinical Establishment Act, National Building Code. So many things need to be, and if you're establishing a lift, I mean, there's a separate act, as I mentioned earlier, which you need to follow. So what are the important ones? There is obviously no way in this short span of time we can discuss the laws which govern medical practice. There is just no way. So I'll focus myself on three, which is the Clinical Establishment Act, Consumer Protection Act, and National Medical Commission Act, which are directly concerning us and which affect us on a regular basis. I'm avoiding to go and discuss the MTP, PCP, NDT, assisted reproductive technologies, assuming and having been told these acts, all of you know better than me, so I will not touch those. Important for all of us to see and realize that Indian Penal Code 1876, so I'm forgetting the exact date, is now repealed, and you have Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, and this
1860.
is now
IPC 1860.
And that is repealed now, and what you have is BNS. And this is something which is, again, compared to the previous IPC, despite what the politicians have said in the parliament and what kind of benevolence they have shown, it is much, much worse for doctors than the original Indian Penal Code was. Again, to discuss that will take a lot of time, so I'll have to skip and run. One of the first problems a person who starts obstetric practice is when you start using your ground floor as a nursing home and you are staying on the first floor and you receive a notice that you are using residential premises for commercial purposes. Now, there are multiple judgments all across India, the multiple issues, including one of the judgments from Punjab and Haryana High Court, where Medical Legal Action Group had gone in writ petition asking why doctors are being asked to pay commercial rates for utilities when advocates and other professionals are not paying the same. So these are the kind of problems. And not only this, there are certain judgments from Supreme Court which have categorically said that in a residential area, you cannot run a clinic or nursing home. So it is states which have come up with laws, and now some like even Chandigarh or Haryana, Punjab, actually it started from Chandigarh. We had done a complete, we had pursued the matter with the local administration. And from 96 to 99, we had pursued this matter after this judgment of Supreme Court had come. And we had got the Capital of Punjab Development Act amended. They had made provision that nursing homes which have been running will continue to run, subject to the condition they pay some conversion charges. Similar policies were made by Haryana, Punjab, Gujarat, all these states. Many states now have this policy. And this is one of the judgments from Supreme Court, where Noida also, the orders were passed. But what they said very clearly was, you can use 25% of the total area on any floor for your consultation purposes. But like in Chandigarh, we have 500 square feet as the maximum area we can use. This is only for a clinic, but then for a clinic also in Chandigarh, you don't need to pay any conversion charge. This is true, not true in Haryana and some other states. Regarding the rates, electricity and water charges it is still being charged on a commercial basis, despite our efforts, and we need to make stronger efforts to get this rectified. It is injustice which is being done to doctors, but unfortunately, we can't do much without active support and active help from everyone. Let us touch the Clinical Establishment Act. Clinical Establishment Act was brought about with the objectives to have a digital registry, to prevent quackery, and to prescribe minimum standards of facilities and services. And when this act was initially proposed in 2007, the Parliamentary Standing Committee had said categorically that this is against the federal structure and it will create problems. So this was shelved. But 3 years down the line, again, then Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad had introduced this, and there was no discussion whatsoever during the time this bill was put in the parliament. And without any discussion, this was passed because there was a lot of humdrum going around regarding the 2G scam in the parliament that time. So once this was passed, obviously, nothing much could be done. The main problem here was in section 12, which had said any emergency which comes to a clinical establishment, you have to stabilize it and ensure that whatever is needed to be done, or even if it has to be referred, you have to make arrangements for referral. What was not mentioned here was who is going to bear the cost. Because if you look at the Law Commission report 201, on the basis of which Clinical Establishment Act had included this clause, there was a full 2-3 page mechanism which was described on how to reimburse the costs. All that was removed, and only the responsibility for emergency treatment was placed on doctors in Clinical Establishment Act. So we decided to see actually how many clinical establishments are registered to date. And on 31st March 2024, we had 39,717. Clinical Establishment Act was brought in 2010. We have more than 69,000 hospitals in the country. All clinical establishments, all clinics, hospitals, radiology centers, everything is to be registered under CEA except army establishments. And as I just mentioned, we have 69,000 hospitals, whether private or government, all of which obviously are not even as yet registered. So what to talk of the clinics and radiology centers and physiotherapy centers. There are 63 Sowa clinics which are registered, 814 yoga centers, 166 Siddha. Basically, clinical establishments of any alternative system of medicine also need to be registered in this. So when I saw what is the constitution of the National Council, if you look at it, it has 4 representatives who are elected from Dental Council, Medical Council, Pharmacy Council, and Nursing Council. So 1 from each of them. 1 member from the line of paramedical systems not included in the above, which could be from physiotherapy, dietetics, technicians, anybody. 1 representative each from the Central Council of Indian Medicine, whether it is Ayurveda, Unani, Siddha, or homeopathy. Now, and from Central Council of Homeopathy separately. 1 representative from CCIM Association. So these are representatives from the council, 1 from the association, but please note that in this National Council, there is no representation of IMA. So we have representation from Medical Council of India, which is now National Medical Commission, but they have not asked any member of IMA to be a party here, even though a member from the Central Council of Indian Medicine Association is a member and nominated members. So basically, the whole idea is control of the clinical services being provided by doctors, by administration, by nominated people, without having to invest into any clinical establishment. The district registering authority, again, look at the composition. District collector, district health officer, he of course is a medical officer, from police, from senior level of local self-government, and from a professional association, which could be any professional association. The minimum standards which have been kept are so obnoxious if you look at the ones which have been kept for the establishments of modern scientific medicine, and when you compare it with government hospitals or with establishments of alternate systems of medicine, you find that there is a definite discrimination against modern systems of medicine. Having a completion certificate under Clinical Establishment Act is mandatory, and this is a news report I'm showing you from 2015, when it was reported that 60% of the buildings in any city do not have completion certificates. So imagine if you wish to start a practice today under Clinical Establishment Act, first a notice will be issued, and if any neighbor has any objection, the particulars of your clinic will be published in newspapers, and if any neighbor has any objection, it will be communicated to you, and you have to respond within 45 days. Effectively, how many nursing homes will have neighbors who will agree ki, all right, you practice your nursing home over here and let your patients park your cars in the vicinity? It is always a problem. Similarly, you have to display rates of all procedures in English and local language. You have to maintain information and statistics. Electronic health records is mandatory under Clinical Establishment Act. You have to comply with standard treatment guidelines. Medicine is an art as well as medicine, as well as a science. And many doctors, with their experience, may be treating the same thing in a fashion which may not conform with exactly the guidelines which have been issued by the associations, societies, or government. Innovation, research, all this is going to take a hit when we see the Clinical Establishment Act implemented in its totality, because the powers given under it are exceedingly perverse. There has to be a prescription audit of what prescriptions you are writing. You have to have regular maintenance, annual maintenance contract of all your equipment. And any other conditions can be prescribed for your continued registration. When you look at the standards, how standards are put, if I wish to give you this example of an ICU of 10-bed ICU, I mean, you will be surprised at the amount of human resource which has been mentioned from the AIMS, this guideline had come in. But to follow this practically is impossible. And failure to pay the fine is recoverable as arrears in land revenue. Authorities have the power to give direction for proper functioning. They can ask for returns, records, statistics, any other information. So effectively, even though you are not working in government civil services, you are under the direct control, direct thumb of the local DC, the deputy commissioner, or the collector, or the local administration. Then in the rules, this was brought that you shall charge rates of each procedure within the rates notified by central government from time to time. This is the most bugging part, no investment, the investment is mine, all compliances are mine, I have to generate revenue, I have to attract patients, and I cannot charge rates as I want, more or less, whichever way. This private hospital, which is unaided, is not supported by government in any fashion, and is made despite obstacles created by the government by a doctor as his sole means of livelihood. Around 60-70% of the healthcare in India is still provided by small and medium healthcare establishments, which are not funded by any government source. They said that they are bringing this for prevention of quackery. So let us see if there is a quack and they come to know how are they supposed to inspect and prosecute. If the authority suspects that an unregistered clinical establishment is being run, it can inspect at a reasonable time, provided that no such authorized person shall enter the clinical establishment without first giving notice of his intention to do so. So if there is a quack practicing somewhere and you make a complaint, if there is a quack here, they will first have to send a notice. We are coming to inspect you, and the person will stand with a garland waiting for the inspection team to arrive so that he can welcome them. Obviously, he'll shut the shop, he will put a lock, and he will not be available for 3 days. And the team will go back. Whereas, for registered establishments, they can enter your premises anytime and inspect and do whatever they want. This is the section 12 I was talking about, where you have to stabilize all cases which are brought to you in an emergency. I mean, for an ophthalmologist, running a clinical establishment means he is having his clinic. It is a clinical establishment. And if a lady in abdominal pain in second stage of labor comes, I fail to understand how he's supposed to stabilize that short of delivering the lady. You are not giving the option of referral, and the case laws related to transfer are so bad that this process of transfer will need a separate discussion someday in some platform. I can give you multiple examples. Effectively, the courts are expecting that the doctor should accompany in an ambulance which is completely fitted. Ideally, should be owned by the same person, or he should have an arrangement made. If you are owning it also, you should have a driver available 24 hours, and it should not be the ambulance has gone to drop a patient and there is none available behind that. And if we want to talk of consumer protection, Dr. Shamal was talking about the number of cases which are increasing. When I wrote the first book on compendium on CPA medical cases, this was in 95, and from 1960s till 95, there were total 113 cases of medical negligence which were reported. From 1995 till 2004, we compiled around 270 cases which were reported. Now, 1st January 2023 till 31st December 2023, 261 cases have been decided by National Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission. The 54 state commissions have decided 1,048. And we tried to find the number of district commission decisions. We could not get an accurate thing. So we applied a formula that the ratio of how many cases have gone to National Commission from State Commission, we applied the same ratio to the State Commission decisions. So like Haryana, they had 10 state decisions on medical negligence by the State Commission. If we look at that, we found that there were 170 cases which were decided by district commissions. And when you multiply the factor, it came to around 17,816, including National Commission, State Commission, and District Commission, total all over the country. The ratio between District Commission decisions and State Commission decisions in Haryana was 10 to 170. The same ratio we applied across the country, it came to 17,816. Now, these are cases which have been decided in one complete year. Obviously, when these have been decided, there are some cases which are still ongoing because cases keep going for 20 years, 15 years, 10 years. If we just assume that only the number of cases ongoing is 2 times the number which have been decided. Actually, this number is more than 5 times. Then imagine the total number of cases either decided or under dispute in consumer courts in India today is around 57,365. 69,000 to total hospitals. Nearly 1 case per hospital per year is in litigation. And this does not include the out-of-court settlements, which of course are also enormous in number. Problem with CPA is no one is immune. Doctors from government, ESI, charitable, ESH, army also. RNR hospital has been dragged to consumer courts recently. Private sector. No limit on what compensation can be asked for. Interest on compensation may be more than compensation. An award may be more than the compensation. We all know what changes have been brought from 1986 to CPA 2019. The quantum of compensation, the awards of more than 1 crore are just increasing. There is no limit, and we try to analyze whether, because many a time when I'm sitting on a panel with the High Court judges and Supreme Court judges, I'm told that the judiciary is sympathetic to doctors and most of the cases are decided in favor of doctors. So we looked at 142 cases which were decided in the year 2015. 71.12% were decided against doctors. And when you look at the number of places where a patient can make a complaint, besides the consumer fora, you will be shocked that same case, same complainant, same event, you have to defend yourself over at least 5 to 6 separate judicial or quasi-judicial fora, besides the Supreme Court of WhatsApp Justice and the media trial which you have to face. And do you know, as per a High Court decision, all hospitals shall also maintain the record of each and every patient on the website, starting from registration of patient to the date of discharge. This is the kind of wisdom which is imparted by our judiciary in their judgments. Unfortunately, these get under the carpet and nobody bothers reading them. But tomorrow somebody can be hauled up for something like this. And the result of the hurdles for hospitals due to this, defensive medicine, it's ongoing. For National Medical Commission Act, less said the better. It was said that the principle of regulated electing the regulator is flawed, which means MCI, members were being regulated by the doctors, and the doctors were to be governed by MCI. So they themselves were electing, hence this system was flawed. I mean, we are in democracy. The people sitting to govern me are elected by me. To make such a statement, I found it very, very quixotic is the word I will use. And if you look at it, the National Medical Commission coming in has removed our inclusion in the list of professions. We are no longer a profession, because a profession should have accountability, which should be internal. Our accountability is all to external agencies as well as internal, that is the State Medical Council. Then we should be autonomous. Here, the NMC is totally nominated body. The National Medical Commission is totally a nominated body. Control is with the central government. Central government is supreme. How is this autonomous then? This is not autonomous. This is working like a branch of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. We should have clients rather than customers. But the CPA says we are all traders. If you look at the composition again, you will be surprised to see that there are no elected members effectively in the National Medical Commission. And again, I come back to my basic issue that since 60-70% of the healthcare is provided by small and medium healthcare establishments, not having their representatives in the National Medical Commission is in itself a fault. You have people from universities, you have people from institutions, but universities and institutions and private medical colleges are not the ones who are providing majority of the healthcare in the country. Neither are the corporate. It is the small and medium healthcare establishments, and they are the ones who do not have a say in the National Medical Commission. Hence, I say this body is not autonomous. So, I mean, I can carry on and on, but I'll just give you an example. Supposing in 1947, the Britishers had gone from the country and they had said, okay, fine, we will give you independence. And now, from now onwards, we are nominating these 500 Indians who will sit in the parliament and decide and govern you. Would that have been considered Swaraj if we were not given the option to elect our members' parliament and the member parliaments were nominated by the Britishers before they went? That was not what autonomy is. Autonomy is when I decide for myself. No control, no interference of the government. Until and unless that is there, we are not a profession. There are many clauses in the National Medical Commission Act, which I can show are totally in favor of private medical colleges. And since private medical colleges are owned mainly by member parliaments and politicians, so this entire exercise of NCI to NMC, in my view, was purely to favor them. And not one of them abstained from voting when this bill was to be passed. And then you say this is a conflict of interest. Very, very ironical. Basically, I feel today, there used to be the king's son, when he used to go to school, the teacher could not beat him. So there used to be another boy who used to be sent with the prince. So if the prince did something wrong, the teacher would beat the other boy, and that boy was called the whipping boy. So in India today, I feel doctors are the whipping boys of the society, and we better need to wake up, unite, and do something about it. Otherwise, the future of our profession and the people who are joining the profession today is going to be problematic. Another thing which we need to keep in mind is, besides the laws which are passed by the parliament, there are laws which are, there are Supreme Court judgments which have the force of law. And one of the important ones is this Common Cause versus Union of India. This is right to die, right to passive euthanasia. So time is already up, so I will stop here. But this is a judgment. Definitely, I will ask you to go and go through. Thank you so very much. I hope I have not taken more time than.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, that was an excellent and very precise deliberation of what laws and which are very close to us for day-to-day functioning. As Neeraj has said, don't get offended by when he says all doctors are criminal. He has explained in a very nice way. He's explained in a nice way why we are criminals, because there is no chance that we can work without flouting any norms. And that's a tragedy, or whether it is going to be good for the future, only future will decide. But at present, we are at the receiving end. That's an unfortunate thing. And as you can see, the medical profession is, in the eyes of society, society is really jealous about us. You have to accept that fact. And transparency was not there, and we are being forced to be transparent, which is somehow good to the practice, good to the patients, but detrimental to the medical profession as such. Because secrecy though maintained, transparency though required, there are certain facts which cannot be revealed, and there are certain things which we have to go by our science rather than sentiments and laws. So that's the irony of a medical profession at present. We are caught at a crossroad, but there is going to be light at the end of the tunnel. Let's hope that all things because our society needs small hospitals, society needs medium-sized hospitals, society also needs corporate hospitals. Insurance is going to take over gradually. That's going to be another problem for all of us, which Neeraj very well knows how badly it's affecting our services. But anyway, friends, we still remain the best profession, and we have to believe in ourselves. So that's what I would say. Though Neeraj has made aware of all the things, and we have to abide by them. Law is the law after all. But let us see, authorities are not aware of their full rights. So doctors are not aware of their full rights. And the things will settle one or the other day. We may not be there to see the settlement, but we really don't know which way the medical profession and legal agencies are heading towards. And whether it will be beneficial or welfare to the patients, only time will decide. Thank you, Dr. Neeraj, for your elaborate and a very precise required laws. There are umpteen number of laws, as everybody knows, but throws a light mainly on the Clinical Establishment Act and how NMC is harming the medical profession one way or the other. That's a good elaboration. Thank you very much. Thank you, Suega, for giving me this opportunity. I also thank Jyoti for her good words, and thank you everybody for listening us quietly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Meenakshi madam has also joined. I would ask madam to say a few words.
Yes.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. Thank you, thank you. I was a bit late. I think I could listen to the half of the talk because now I'm again on my way back to the clinic. Anyway, that was a very good talk, Dr. Neeraj. And I think, yes, whatever I heard has made us a powerful impact on all the medical profession which is now going on. And we should be careful in the sense, I really find means not only in metro cities, but also in the rural areas. I really find that people are not so very, particular about maintaining their documents. And that is where we lose our defense. And that we must focus because even if, as Dr. Girish said, that yes, we are the doers and we are the criminals in the eyes of the law because we are the persons who are doing it. We are the persons who are cutting. We are the person who are handling the body because that is our ultimate education. And what we are educated to do is to handle the body, to treat the body, to cut the body in properly with surgical skills. And suppose we don't do that, then what is the benefit of our profession? So we must follow up our profession with utmost care, proper documentation, and proper consent taking with in a proper manner. I think if we do that, I think the legal profession will not affect the medical profession. Thank you, Dr. Neeraj. And thank you all the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Yes, Amrita.
Yes. So it was a great lecture. Thank you, sir. So next session is Landmark Judgments by Dr. Anita Sabarwal, ma'am. To chair this session, we are having Dr. Varsha Ghate, ma'am, and Dr. Manisha Ghate, ma'am. So, Bhavna, please. Dr. Manisha Ghate, ma'am, President of Chandrapur OBGY Society 2023-25, Organizing Chairperson AMOX 2025 Chandrapur, West Zone Coordinator, Food Drug Medico Surgical Equipment Committee FOXY, Chairperson Reproductive Tract Infection Committee AMOX, Secretary General ISUPERB Vidarbh Chapter, Chairperson Women's Doctors Wing IMA Chandrapur 2021-22, Secretary Chandrapur OBGY Society Maharashtra 16-18, Vice President of IMA Chandrapur.
Hello,
And
Dr. Amrita. Yes, let it.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, welcome and
Yes,
thank
thank
you for being here. Then Dr. Varsha Ghate, ma'am, practicing obstetrician and gynecologist Akola since 27 years. She's past President Akola OBGY Society 2021, past President Women's Wing IMA Akola 18-19, conducted adolescent health programs at 80 schools at Akola and surrounding rural areas.
Amrita, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
ma'am.
yes. I think we are short of time. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Amruta, for this brief description of mine. Good evening to all the respected seniors, dignitaries, and dear friends present here. At the outset, I would like to thank respected Dr. Kiran Kurtakoti sir, Dr. Suyoga, Dr. Monica for giving me the opportunity to interact in such an amazing webinar of medical legal aspects on different topics. It is a great privilege to introduce Dr. Anita Sabarwal ma'am, who happens to be a very good friend of mine and a real gem by soul, and also a very down-to-earth personality, which I have known from years. Madam will be talking on various landmark judgment. She is a Foxy champion, Wonder Foxian, Foxy Superstar recipient of Foxy Dhira Award. She has been the president of Forum of Obstetrician and Gynecology of South Delhi, chairperson of Public Awareness Committee of ISCCP in 2019-21, past chairperson of Adolescent Health Committee, and has been awarded gold medal for AOGD, executive member of AOGD of 2017, 19, and 2020, executive of NARCHI of Delhi chapter, and has been invited member of Women's Cell of Violence Against Women, WOW Committee. She is the advisor of MTP Committee of Foxy, master trainer of Dhira, certified UNICEF GBV trainer, member Safe Motherhood Committee Foxy, and she has been the faculties for many conferences also. With this, I welcome Dr. Anita Sabarwal ma'am. Madam, the board is all yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Manisha, for such kind words. I don't think I deserve so much. Thank you so much. And thank you to my other co-chairperson also. And also to the organizers for the opportunity to be here amongst all of you, the cream of India. And can I share my slides, Suyoga? Otherwise, you will have to help me. I will just...
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm trying to share. And...
You can share, ma'am.
Yeah. Could I share it? Is it coming?
No, not as it.
You are the co-host now, ma'am. You can share the slide.
Yeah, I'm sharing.
Yeah.
Has it come now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, make it full screen.
Yeah, I will.
It's the last slide, ma'am. You have to go to the first slide and then...
Yeah.
You have to go to the first slide.
Okay. Yeah. Has it come now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you for helping me. So I'll be speaking on the landmark judgments that shape legalities in a medical practice. We just heard the great man in medical legal practice, Dr. Neeraj Nagpal, who happens to be from my alma mater, 3 years junior. But now he's such a senior person in this medical legal field. So it was really great listening to him, and I think he has helped us. He spoke about CPA, and this is the Apex Court, and I also come from Delhi. So it's very much here in Delhi. And as we all know, law and medicine, they have an interface. We just heard so many laws from Dr. Neeraj, because this law and medicine, they have been related since ancient times, and their interface has been expanding rapidly, which you just saw. So many things. So I will start because there are so many landmark judgments. So I chose a few which I thought would be of interest to you. And why we call them landmark judgments? Because they are the historical judgments, because they establish measurable standards for future decisions, and it opens up new direction in our constitutional values. So that's why they are very important. And now this is one landmark judgment. I start from 1989 when this Pandit Parmanand Katara versus Union of India landmark judgment came. In this landmark judgment, it was established for the first time that medical duties of a doctor take precedence over legal duties. And this judgment was widely perceived as favoring patients, especially those in emergencies, and even doctors. They were also happy to go forward and help the patients in emergency. I will just go through a bit about this judgment, how it came about. There was an accident on the road, and a scooterist, he was knocked down by a speeding car. And the car fellow, as usual, he fled the scene, and the patient was bleeding profusely. And a nice our citizen, he came and he took him to a nearest hospital. But during those times, all the hospitals were not authorized to undertake the medical legal cases. So this hospital, they advised that he should be taken to another hospital, which was about 20 kilometers further from there, because that had the medical legal rights. So now what happened on the way? This fellow's come to his injuries. Now this case, it came in the newspaper. And you know how it came in the newspaper? It was in Hindustan Times, and it came as that law is helping victims die. Law is helping victims die. So this fellow, who was a human rights activist, this Permanent Kadra, he filed a writ petition in public interest. And he requested that direction should be issued to the Union of India for treatment of everyone in emergency. So they said, which is more important in an emergency, medical treatment or legal formalities? Because of the legal formalities issues, the patient could not get treatment at the right time. So now whether doctors had a right to choose patient under emergency, because otherwise we do have the right to choose our patients. But now, after this judgment, the doctors do not have a right to choose patients under emergency. So doctor has to immediately start treatment of a patient under emergency. And this happened, and then they had to modify the laws, and this law came that medical legal formalities need not be done. Previously, we had to first do the medical legal formalities, then touch the patient. But now, as we all know, this is not the case. So in emergency, we have to treat the patient first. Then comes the second case, that is Suresh Gupta versus NCT of Delhi. This case was of 2004. Dr. Suresh Gupta, he was a plastic surgeon, and he performed a plastic surgery on a young patient, 38 years old. He was a case of DNS, deviated nasal septum. So it was done under general anesthesia, but probably maybe the endotracheal tube was not fitting. So there was some oozing of blood, and there was aspiration of blood, and patient died on the table. So both the surgeon as well as the anesthetist, they were charged criminally. And issue was whether Gupta was criminally liable or only a civil liability. And very interestingly, the anesthetist, he even died during the course of this case. So now, Supreme Court said Gupta was not criminally liable. The reason was, for becoming criminally liable, the negligence through lack of proper care or lack of precaution and attention or inadvertence, that creates a civil liability. That does not create a criminal one, that you are not knowingly wanting to kill the patient. And it was due to some mistake. So Supreme Court said it could be termed criminal only when the doctor exhibits a gross lack of competence. Now this person was a competent doctor, plastic surgeon, or due to inaction or wanton. Wanton means undisciplined person, undisciplined doctor or spoiled doctor. And this was not in this case. Or he was indifferent, there was indifference to the patient's safety. Since these things were not there, so the doctor is not criminally liable. So this was the case, and that is how it was in favor of the doctors. So next was Jacob Matthews versus State of Punjab, as we just heard Dr. Neeraj Nagpal also say about it, and Dr. Shyamal also. This is a very, very important case. And this case happened, Dr. Jacob Matthews is actually from Christian Medical College, Ludhiana. It happened in Punjab, and this is my alma mater also. So this patient, Jeevan Lal Sharma, was a very elderly patient who was suffering from a chronic disease. He was suffering from cancer. And now he was almost in the terminal stages. And as far as I remember, the relatives wanted admission, though they were asked to stay at home only, but they said no, they want, and they requested, and ultimately patient was admitted there. But during the stay, he had some respiratory difficulty, and the doctor came little late. And before that, he was requiring oxygen, and the oxygen cylinder which was used was empty. So the relative also brought some cylinder, and it was not working. So ultimately, the patient died. So now the basic issue was same as in Suresh Gupta case. Were the doctors civilly or criminally liable? So now in this case, the inspecting officer had come and they wanted to arrest the doctors. So now Supreme Court said doctors cannot be put under a constant fear of litigation. A surgeon with shaky hands, under the fear of legal action, cannot perform a successful operation. And a quivering physician cannot administer the end dose of medicine to his patient. So if a medical profession, they said, is continually being harassed in this manner, he would feel better advised to leave a terminal patient to his own fate in the case of emergency, where the chance of success may be 10% or so, rather than taking the risk of making a last-ditch effort towards saving the subject and facing a criminal prosecution if his effort fails. So such timidity forced upon a doctor would be a disservice to the society. So major observation relevant to doctors, guidelines for prosecution of doctors, 304A IPC were laid down. The apex court held that doctors were being subjected to unnecessary harassments by both patients and police, and that they had to be protected from frivolous complaints of medical negligence. The inspecting officer and the private complainant cannot always be supposed to have knowledge of medical science. So they always have to hold a medical board, and then the medical board only can assess whether there was some liability against the doctor or not. The inspecting officer, if he just comes and troubles the doctor, then other doctors would not like to work like that. So again, this judgment was very much in favor of doctors. And then again, Martin D'Souza case. This was also a very, very interesting case, which happened in Mumbai. The patient was from Delhi. He was suffering from chronic renal failure. And the Director General of Health Services here, he referred him to Nanavati Hospital, Mumbai. And now this patient was for renal transplant. And he wanted the transplant by Dr. Sonawala only. But during that time, he was on leave for 1 month. He had gone abroad, so he said, no, I'll wait for him. Meanwhile, he had to undergo hemodialysis. And in between, he suffered from very severe infection. Now, when the urine culture came, it was showing sensitivity to methyl mandolate and amikacin. Now, methyl mandolate couldn't be given during chronic renal failure. So only amikacin could be given because he was having spikes of fever, 104 plus. So amikacin was given. But this patient, he was asked for admission. He didn't listen to the doctor. He never got admitted. Ultimately, he would come for dialysis, but he wouldn't listen for admission or whatever the doctor was saying. And then in between, he complained of tinnitus. So doctor asked him to stop amikacin because he was better also that time. Otherwise, he was supposed to take it for about 10 to 14 days. But he didn't listen. He continued. And later on, he went for his transplant. And later, he filed a case that he has become deaf. because of the amicus of that doctor. So ultimately, the lower court had punished, but then the apex court again, it was similar case, and they found the medical board by AIMS was sitting over there, and they found that the proper treatment was given, and some side effects have to be taken care of. Yeah, because some it's not always that everything is foolproof. Side effects may happen, but his life was protected. So that is how ultimately this case was also crashed. And again, now the last case I will be talking about is Samira Kohli, which we were just even listening to, versus Dr. Prabha Manchanda. Again, this case happened in Delhi, and this judgment came in year 2008. And the fact was that there was an unmarried lady who was 44 years old. And she had bleeding per vaginum for 9 days, since 9 days. And her ultrasound was showing fibroid, a right ovary chocolate cyst, and a small cyst on left side, and endometriosis. So she was advised admission for diagnostic laparoscopy. Now the consent was taken for diagnostic laparoscopy. And it was also explained it's a very minor surgery, and but told that laparotomy might be needed. But there was no mention that hysterectomy or some alternative treatment could also be done during that period. So now, while the patient was under anesthesia, the doctor felt that it had to be opened up to do total abdominal hysterectomy. So doctor's assistant took consent for hysterectomy from the patient's mother because the patient was anesthetized. Now, the ultimately what happened, one hysterectomy was done, but the case was filed and the allegation and demand for 25 lakhs were done. Because they said hysterectomy without patient's consent was done when she was under anesthesia. And no information was given about these modalities or this kind of treatment before the operation. Pre-op, it was not told. And suffering now due to pre-menopause, it's mature menopause, is troubling. So the Supreme Court directions came that can the doctor be held to be negligent in taking decision of total abdominal hysterectomy on table? No. Doctor cannot be held to be negligent. Why? Because Dr. Sudha Salan, doctor, she was gave her opinion, and also textbook X references were taken. Dr. Sudha Salan ma'am is in Delhi, as you all know. She's also my teacher. And so is the doctor still, I think somebody's ask somebody to switch off their mic. Dr. Meenakshi ma'am, please, yeah. So yes, for assault and battery, for doing now, is the doctor still liable? Yes. Why liable for the assault and battery for doing total abdominal hysterectomy without consent? Because here the consent for total abdominal hysterectomy was not taken. So consent was only for diagnostic laparoscopy. Laparotomy may be needed implied conservative surgery, but not the total abdominal hysterectomy. So now the compensation was only for lack of consent. So doctor had to pay rupees 25,000 plus bill if paid plus 5,000 of the cost. So that was way back in 2008. So this was a very, very important case. And after that, everybody became very careful because sometimes in those days, like doctor was their god. So whatever they said, the patient would like to. So even like you want to do for good, in good faith, you are trying to help the patient, still you have to take the consent. Sometimes we feel, oh, why to give another anesthesia? One could do in one go. But again, the law is that we have to close the patient and then again take another consent and next another anesthesia and whenever it is proposed after the patient's consent. So ultimately, doctors must treat patients under emergency, as we learn from Katara case, landmark judgment. And to prove criminal liability, the level of negligence should be much higher, as we learned from Suresh Gupta landmark case. Then doctors will not be needlessly harassed in criminal cases, like in Jacob Matthews' case. So this was the landmark judgment which favored doctors. And this observation was also extended even to civil cases, as we saw in Martin D'Souza case. And consent, if given only for diagnostic, it cannot do additional therapeutic procedure. So consent is very important. If consent is given for specific treatment, you cannot do other procedures unless it is life-saving. So argument that it is beneficial, it would save time, it would save pain and suffering in future, that does not stand. So ultimately, we have to abide the law, and if we abide the law, we shall be able to help the patient as well as able to help ourselves and go on. And I just give my example too. I'm working at a very ground level. I'm running my practice for the almost 40 years. On this coming Monday, we will be celebrating my clinic in Govindpuri, South Delhi's area, where I'm running it. We had even MTP center, fully government approved. I'm running my ultrasound center. So now I don't do ultrasounds for pregnancy, but everything we have to abide by law. We have to do whatever they say, all documentation, everything we have to do. And if there is communication and we are friendly with our patients, so that friendly gesture, that togetherness, I think they all save us and one can go on. So I am at a very ground level, very low level. I am not a super specialist. So whatever my experience, I could share. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
Over
Thank
to
you,
you,
ma'am.
Aisha, madam. Thank you, madam. Thank you so much. A very wonderful all types of cases you have presented. Regarding consent, I would like to say that rather than taking a blanket consent, always we should take a consent which is specific to that patient.
Yeah.
And we should try to explain, I think, all the complications possible by drawing some diagrams, and we can tell them that maybe this is very rare, but if it happens to you, it will be 100% for you.
Right.
And we should always maintain transparency with the patient. And whenever something goes wrong, I think we should immediately communicate it with them, try to solve this, call our colleagues, and keep updating them. I think that will help the patient, and that the patient will also feel, the relatives will be comfortable if we, rather than hiding anything, if we keep updating them. So thank you so much, madam. All very nice cases you have presented, and many things you can learn from each case. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And
Yes.
rather, in my 40 years practice here, I can vouch because it was all on my own head, and private practice, it's not easy. But if you are friendly with your patients, they really, as you said, you
Definitely.
have to be
Yes.
transparent. Rather, patients also help you and they cooperate
Yes.
with you. And
Yes, yes.
rather, you panic once a patient bled profusely. And patient was making me relax. Don't worry. Don't shift me anywhere. You call your helpers. You call your other friends. Manage me here. And she became fine also. We could call everybody, call the ultrasonologist, call my other colleagues, and we could manage the patient. So, but
And we should
one
keep
thing is
updating
also-
ourselves. Keep
Yes.
updating, listening to things like you have been telling. Yeah, we learn every time we hear something, we learn something new. Every time.
Yeah.
That is
So the tagline is, please communicate with your patient every now and then whenever there is a possibility of that we are having to have some troubleshooting problem in our OT or in our hospitals. That is the main thing, ma'am. And actually, this communication brings us very near to the patient and relatives. And this gesture of ours, it is surely going to help us in preventing the litigations which might come if something wrong happens. That is the tagline.
And
Yeah.
even documentation is very important.
Documentation, very, very
Yes,
important.
no
After
one can,
Yeah.
no one can
Yes,
save
yes.
you if your documentation
So
is
they were
not.
having a divorce. Now the lady wanted to say that they forced me to have an MTP, and that was
Yeah.
at my clinic. So
Yes.
immediately somebody comes, you get scared. Now you will be dragged. But if you have documents, also then you
Yes,
don't.
even in emergency, one staff should be updating and taking the consents that they have been informed.
Yeah, and no loose talks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Definitely. No
Right.
loose words should be
Yes,
there.
yes.
No.
Dr.
Yeah.
Neeraj Nagpal's comments.
I think his sir left.
He's here.
Yes,
He's
sir.
Sir is there. Sir is
He's
Okay,
very much
yeah,
here.
yeah.
is,
Yes, yes.
do you think sincerely that your staff taking a consent is adequate?
Yes.
No, no, no. You have to monitor. You have to do
No,
everything.
Anita, I'm not asking.
Definitely.
Ma'am has just mentioned
Never.
your staff should be taking the consent. The
No,
law
no.
as it stands in India today, a junior member of your team, which means a senior resident, a junior resident who's worked with you for some time, Samira Kohli has said that, but then from US, we have now cases where it has been decided, and remember, consent is defined only under Indian Contract Act. And contract is always between two people. So it is you and the patient. Ideally, consent should be taken by you and the patient should give the consent. Nobody else is party to this. Witnesses can be there. But asking the nurse to take a consent, and it is very, very dangerous. Supposing you have, we'll be discussing death on table. Supposing you want the nurse to go out and communicate with the patient family, it can be disastrous.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
can be disastrous. If there is an actual problem going on, we will discuss in the Dr. MC Patel session. But my point is, consent, always try, and in case you feel something additional may be needed, please write down originally in your original consent only, in case of this particular problem, I will be doing this, and the patient gives consent for this.
Right.
So that you are not caught off guard.
Absolutely. Even for
Just-
PNDT forms, you have to, the person,
Definitely.
ultimately they come and catch you only. I've had the experience.
No,
So
but
you have to
90%
put in the
of the
form.
times, what
Yeah.
ma'am is saying is correct. It is the nurse who's given the form and she gets the consent done. I do endoscopies day in, day out. How many consents have I signed? Never. But as Mahatma Gandhi used to say, do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
But-
So, but still, in PNDT especially, because ultimately they catch you. You have signed and something is missing over there.
Neeraj,
But what?
should I comment?
Yes,
please.
sir. We are waiting
Yes,
for
sir.
you.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Waiting for
Yes,
Dr.
sir.
So as
Patel,
far as
sir.
consent to be taken by person, so if a person is a part of your team, as far as management part is concerned of that very patient, then any member of that very team can take consent. But only thing expected is whichever written in consent paper or whatever he or she is going to counsel or communicate, it should be well understood by patient, and then patient should have signed the document. This is required.
What is the definition of your team, sir? If
Team
a
means,
team is to be mentioned.
I am clarifying. Say for example, Dr. MC Patel is going to operate for abdominal hysterectomy, and Dr. Anita Sabharwal is assisting me. She is my team member. One more assistant who is going to assist me, he or she is my team member. So any one of them can explain about all the treatment plan, all the consequences, etc., which is required to be taken at the time of taking consent, and then patient can sign.
So team is always the way you have in medical colleges: professor, associate professor, additional professor, assistant professor,
Yes,
senior
this is
resident,
also
junior
team.
resident. Not staff nurse. Because
Not staff nurse.
yes,
Not
that is
staff
my
nurse.
point. So we cannot include a staff nurse or an OT technician who may be working with me in the team, but they are not
No,
part
no,
of my team.
They are not team member that way.
Yes, that is what I want to clarify.
Doctors in the team. Yeah.
Can anesthetist take the consent?
So
Anesthetist is also a team member for the surgery.
So, anesthetist has to take a separate consent for anesthesia.
Right.
Yes.
He is responsible for that consent.
Okay.
Ideally, जो अभी तक देखिए ये सब gray areas हैं. We are talking hypothetical situations.
Right.
But the point as of today is we are following the West by around 2 decades. And 2016, this decision has come. Ki ultimately, if in US, Pennsylvania, in fact, the decision is there. Megan or some, I'm forgetting the full name. They have said categorically, nobody else except the operating surgeon.
Oh.
So now it is not so in India as yet, because India, we are still Samira Kohli is applicable, and it has said very clearly that a junior member of the team. So the question arises, what is the team? Team is like we have in medical colleges or in corporate hospitals. That is correct. But to say that the sweeper is also part of my team,
No,
that would be
is not
wrong.
there.
That is what I'm saying.
Person should be capable to answer any question raised by patient or patient party at the time of counseling, taking consent.
So nurses and the quality of nurses we have in India today are not the people to be taking the consent. That is my point.
And question raised by Dr. Vijay, as far as anesthesia part is concerned, concern for anesthesia is to be taken separately, and anesthesiologist is the best person to explain, to counsel patient related to anesthesia and to take consent. Say, for example, type of anesthesia, effect of anesthesia, side effect of anesthesia, alternative of some anesthetic agents, etc. So, person who is concerned about that very part should be the person to take consent.
Sir, but majority of the times we are having singleton hospitals, single obstetrician is managing the hospital, and when he is doing some emergency surgery, like when he is doing cesarean section, but let's say there is some problem, patient lands up into PPH and needs an obstetric hysterectomy.
Life saving, no consent needed.
Vijay, if it is life saving, no consent is required, but at the same time, burden of proof will be on your shoulder to prove that it was immediate necessary to save life of patient, and whatever you do to save life of patient, it is always pardoned in court of law. But you will have to prove, because in court it is very common dictum. Whatever you say, whatever you do, you should be in a position to justify in your in the court.
Right. Thank you.
Am I right, Neeraj?
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
Yes.
Patel sir, congratulations and all the best.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
I was really busy. Now I'm free.
Yes, I will talk to you today night only.
इलेक्शन लड़ने के लिए पतला होना जरूरी है?
नहीं, पतला होना जरूरी नहीं, नीरज।
पतले हो जाओ।
नीरज फिट होना जरूरी है। और फिटनेस की व्याख्या क्या है वो देखना है।
सर, और इलेक्शन
नीरज भाई जब IMA चंडीगढ़ का प्रेसिडेंट बने थे तो इलेक्शन हुआ था। नीरज भाई
so can't hear you.
Saying something but we can't hear. Saying clearly. Dr. Shyamal sir, clear नहीं आ रहा। Shyamal sir,
yes,
नहीं आ रहा।
when
again.
for the IMA president of Chandigarh.
तब he was saying,
panel discussion अभी शुरू भी नहीं हुआ।
So that
at that time he was lenient team.
उसको तो मेरे को लगता है 7:45 बजे।
You are right. 2005 I was.
Okay. So it goes with the formula. One needs to be to fight an election.
एक सेकंड।
Good one.
अभी वहां बैठे थे ना काफी
भागना बहुत करते हैं।
Should we proceed for the panel discussion?
तो बोला ही नहीं ना, आया भी नहीं।
Yes, so Anita ma'am, and thank you Varsha ma'am and Manisha ma'am. So next is we are waiting for panel discussion. So death on table. To moderate this session, I welcome Dr. MC Patel sir and panelist Dr. Vijay Shinde sir, Dr. Prachi Uzavane, Dr. Monali Dole, Dr. Kanchan Madar, Dr. Pratibha Chauhan, then Dr. Rashmi Bhaisari ma'am, Dr. Saili Jahagirdar ma'am, Dr. Kalpana Gulbade ma'am. So welcome you all.
Amrita, we need to introduce MC Patel sir. And,
yes, next slide, please. So Dr. MC Patel sir, everyone knows sir, Consultant obstetrician gynecologist and medical legal counselor, Vice President Foxy 2018, Organizing Secretary AICUG 2017, Chairperson Ethics and Medical Legal Committee Foxy 2011 and 2013. 2011 to 2013, Honorable Secretary, State Organization of Gynecologists and Obstetrician of Gujarat 2022 to 2024. Organizing Chairperson, MM.Con 2018. Honorable Member, National Inspection and Monitoring Committee, PCP Entity Act, Government of India 2015. Honorable Member, State Supervisory Board, PNTT Act Committee, Gujarat State 2005 to 9. President, Ahmedabad OBGYN Society 2010-11. Honorable Member, National Managing Body, Indian Red Cross Society 2019 to 22. National President, National Medicos Organization 2016 to 18. President, IMA Ahmedabad Branch 2007 to 8. Honorary Surgeon, Indian Red Cross, collected more than 1,000 eye repairs. Organizing Chairperson, Vivekanand, NMO on 2013. President, Lions Club, Ghatoldia, Ahmedabad, 1997-1998. So welcome, sir. We are eagerly waiting for you. And I welcome all the panelists.
So before we start panel, I would request Neeraj to be with me when some questions are bombarded by panelists, because he is also much experienced person to discuss this type of situation. Neeraj, are you okay?
Oh yeah, I'm okay, sir. No issue.
Okay. Yes, now stage is yours, all the panelists. You may ask any question related to death on table.
Yes, sir. Good evening, respected sir. So the first question, sir, that we want to know is, what could be the most common causes of intraoperative mortality in case of obstetric and gynecology? The most common causes of death on table.
But this question can be answered by any gynecologist. We are medical legal person, but still there are two main things. Either it could be hemorrhagic part or it could be non-hemorrhagic. And as far as hemorrhagic part is concerned, it could be antenatal, it could be during delivery, or it could be postnatal. And as far as non-hemorrhagic part is concerned, there are so many issues which may face in our day-to-day obstetric practice, and very dangerous one is amniotic fluid embolism. And it is, of course, it is rare, but mortality is so high, and we have to face this type of situation in our obstetric practice. Any other anaphylactic reaction to any drug, it is also, or of course, occurs rare, but many times it becomes a nightmare for any of us. Complication of anesthesia, then if patient is already a heart patient, cardiac issue, then she may end up into myocardial infarction or any other entity, or cardiomyopathy also. So there are so many issues we have to face in our day-to-day obstetric practice, and we may face death on table. Pulmonary embolism is also one of more area.
Yes. Secondly, sir, while practicing in obstetric gynecology, like we know it's an emergency branch, what measures or what things we should follow either in pre-operative or an intraoperative thing, either in the pre-operative workup or maybe during the procedure, that we should follow as a standard operative procedure like SOPs to prevent all these type of complications?
So it is very common dictum. Law doesn't teach you medicine. How to treat patient, that is up to standard medical norms. And who will decide what is standard medical norms? So very clear part, treatment which is given in standard textbook. If we have treated patient as per given in standard textbook, it is considered that we have treated patient as per standard medical norms. Practice prevailing in nearby medical college, it is also considered as a standard medical practice. Practice prevailing in peer group, it is also considered. given in any journal, in any periodicals which are authorized, then and any other expert, if any expert say in this situation this should be done and whatever doctor has done was very correct, then you are out of problem. So as said, there is no protocol by law, but we have to treat patient as per our standard medical norms. Anything to add, Dr. Neeraj?
No, these are medical questions. This is not a legal this thing. This is what
Yes,
you are
exactly.
taught by your professors in your post-graduation. Whatever they teach you, this is something you need to follow. This is medical practice. This is not law.
This is not law. But in short, when this question is raised, this is very clear. So what law expect from us? So I always in my discussion also, I go with three words. First is foreseeability or anticipation. You should anticipate certain complication and you should be readily available to deal with situations. Say, for example, if you are dealing with a central placenta previa, naturally you should anticipate that she may end up into BPH.
Yeah.
She may require blood transfusion. She may require obstetric hysterectomy also. If you are readily available to deal with that very situation, you are out of problem, irrespective of ultimate outcome. And in this situation, when you anticipate, when you foresee something, then second part becomes a counseling. So you have to counsel patient and patient party accordingly. Which patient you are dealing with resources you are dealing with, and which could be the probable outcome, and what could be the probable management. If you have counseled patient well, and if you can prove all this by your proper record keeping, then you should be out of problem. But with all this, proper presentation of your case before honorable court is equally important.
So what should have been the preoperative protocols for a patient with multiple sections? Like you say, the placenta previa may go missed. Any other things you may...
So, again, at the time of counseling, we should be very vigilant or careful. When we are dealing with a case of previously 1, 2, 3 LSCS, naturally we should anticipate there could be addition. And at the time of opening abdomen, there could be possible injury to vital structure, peritoneum or bladder or bowel or so. So we have to counsel. And if at all it happens, we should be ready to deal with situation. We can do by our own, or we can involve our professional colleague also. Say, for example, if it is injury to bowel, it is not our domain. We can include surgeon, but to be vigilant, or we can say abundant caution. When we are dealing this type of case in more than 2 or 3 sections previously, then we should have a phone call to our friend, surgeon, urologist, that I am going to operate this patient. If at all happens, are you available? If you have made like this, it shows your abundant caution to take care of patient in any given situation, and it shows your concern.
Yeah, but when the abdomen is open and the surgeon is operating, the patient is so sedated. No, we are not taking the consent from patient. So do you mean to say that in all the cases of previous sections or something, we have to take consent like that only? The patient may need a bariatric surgery.
Yes. So if you are dealing with this type of cases, just you mentioned previous LSCS or so. So at the time of counseling, you have to mention everything that this could be the possibility, and we may encounter this type of problem, and we may have to involve other professional colleague in the treatment. And patient gives usually consent. I don't think patient say no.
I think this should be discussed even in our clinical prime first cesarean section as well.
In first cesarean section also,
in any patient, there can be a severe adhesion because of pre-existing endometriosis or whatever kind of PID.
Even I would say even normal birth, normal vaginal birth also we should counsel patient well, because patient may end up into complete perineal tear. She may end up into this instrumental delivery or cesarean section. And when patient is in agony of pain and we take consent, many a time argument on part of prosecution could be that when you took consent, patient was in agony of labor pain, so it is not considered as a valid concern. So these are some issues. So at the time of admission only, we can discuss all this, and we can have we should have consent.
You mean to say placenta previa case should not be operated in a single person operating in a single small scale nursing homes? It should be done in only in ICU?
Let us discuss not central placenta previa. Any high risk pregnancy cases where we should manage high risk pregnancy cases. As said, there is no law, there is no guideline where we should deal with this type of situation. But if at all we are facing any litigation, and there could be allegation that you had very limited resources and why you went with this type of high risk pregnancy cases, etc. So in this situation, usually there could be question on part of court or law also, that whenever you were dealing or whenever you admitting this type of patient, you should ask certain question to yourself. If at all some emergency investigations required, are you able to manage well in time? Are you able to involve other professional colleagues? Are you able to arrange for blood? Are you arrange for emergency cesarean section? In case of obstetric, are you able to manage neonatal backup? So if you can manage all this thing at your place, then you can operate any damn patient. But again, I would say burden of proof will be on your shoulder to prove that you had all this facility and you went with this patient.
What is the legal standing for the HDU in obstetric?
Just I mentioned, whenever you go with some extraordinary facility, then it shows your consent to save life of patient in any given situation. Yeah. It is always good in your favor.
We can go with the next case, wherein we are discussing with the anesthetic complications. A pregnant woman, she died due to anesthetic complications during an emergency cesarean section, and the anesthesiologist failed to monitor vital signs properly, leading to an undetected drop in blood pressure. So, my question to you, sir, is what protocol should be in place for monitoring anesthesia during surgery, and how can anesthetic risk be minimized in emergency situations?
So again, it is a medical question only, not legal.
Yes, not a medical legal actually. Yes, yes.
Actually, whenever any complications happens, whether it is due to anesthesia or whether it is related to surgery, being a head of the institution, when you are dealing patient in under your roof, then with anesthesiologist, you are also taken into consideration. So, of course, if it is anesthesia complication and if it is proved in court of law, then also there could be vicarious liability on your part. But if anesthesiologist has explained patient and patient party well about anesthesia, just I mentioned prior, effects, side effects, type, and all other consequences related to that very anesthesia, it becomes easier for us to face this type of situation, to face relative if at all something has gone wrong. Otherwise, any complication whenever happens, whether it is anesthesia or whether it is surgery, then we have to face. Yes, Neeraj, anything to add?
Case from Karnataka, Karnataka High Court had given a decision in one of the cases where patient was taken for cesarean, and after some time they declared that patient had an anesthetic reaction and died. Postmortem revealed a fracture pelvis, and in this particular case, the obstetrician had repeatedly mentioned in court that, look, I had not even started anesthesia. She had come out and she was with the patient's relatives trying to say, Kiji, I have not started the surgery. It is an anesthetic complication. Now, my question here is, you have had a cardiorespiratory arrest on table. should the obstetrician not be assisting the anesthetist in reviving the patient, or should the obstetrician try to absolve herself or himself by being outside the OT with the patient's relatives, trying to wash their hands off the situation? Because this matter is going to go to Supreme Court. National Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission has already absolved the gynecologist. My thought is that this is not going to sustain. So in case a team is inside and an emergency is there, my view is an obstetrician should be assisting the anesthetist in trying to revive the patient rather than to, because if you go through that entire script of the judgment of National Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission, as well as because the Karnataka High Court refused to quash the FIR. They had asked the FIR to continue. And this is a senior obstetrician. So, I mean, this is a situation which will arise from time to time. When you have an arrest and it is your duty to decide whether you have not even started surgery, agreed. But what should be your action? So this is my view, that when we are trying to put the blame on somebody else, invariably the blame will fall on us also. The winner is only going to be the complainant.
Yes. So it is very clear, when everything is going fine in surgery, captain of ship is surgeon.
Yes.
But when something goes wrong and some sudden cardiac arrest happen, then as far as resuscitation part is concerned, captain is anesthesiologist.
No,
and we cannot abscond from our responsibility. And we have to assist anesthesiologist in that very resuscitation part. And it shows our consent to save life of patient. If we go outside operation theater and discuss with the relative that this has happened, anesthesiologist is level based, it is not at all going to save you in court of law. So you should be with anesthesiologist. It should be joint efforts to save life of patient.
Even if you are not resuscitating, your job would be to document what is happening.
Yes, yes, you can. That is also
you are not resuscitating.
Yes.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Hello. Should I ask?
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Suyoga madam, for giving me this opportunity, and all the best, Patel Sirji.
Thank you.
I would like to ask, with due consent of patient and relative, trial of labor started, and middle of the trial there was a fetal distress, and that's why emergency decision for the cesarean section was taken. But because of somewhere that maybe the peripheral place, or there is only one OT or two OT, or both are occupied, and that's why there is a delay for taking for the cesarean section, and ultimately patient taken. There was also difficulty for transferring the patient to another hospital. So that's why there was some delay, and patient died on the table. Then relatives may sue. And in this situation, how to face such situation?
In this situation, there are two views. One, was that nursing home owned by that very doctor? One thing. Or was that doctor working in that very hospital, or this is corporate hospital where management was with some other agency? So in this situation, doctor personally will not be held responsible, but hospital will be taken into consideration. Of course, OT was not available. That is all one situation. And
but in the OT also there is emergency patient going on. That patient's life is also very important.
Transfer patient in this situation to nearby hospital. So we have to consider time will be taken to shift that very patient to another hospital. And then also, is the OT ready? There also where we are thinking to shift patient. There are so many issues in this type of situation. Yes, Neeraj?
Ultimately, this is dependent on the situation. If you are giving a trial of labor and you have another emergency you are taking into the OT, did you make backup arrangement of what will happen to this patient in case she goes into distress. All you need to do is inform your friend nearby or somebody, the nursing home nearby, and in case of such a situation, inform the relatives beforehand, and so that it can be done in that time while you are in OT. Because this is a very specific situation you are saying. Court simply wants you to have done in an emergency what is expected of you by your peers.
Yes.
They don't want you to do something what the Head Department, All India Institute of Medical Sciences will do. Did you take reasonable care for the patient? If you can prove that, it is enough.
Yes, it is enough.
There will be situations where you will not be able to save patients. There is no denying it. But the fact remains, did you take reasonable steps? That is what you need to prove. And if
sometimes we can take our patient in minor OT also by making arrangement.
I know Max Hospital, they have 9 OTs. All OTs were full. My wife has done a cesarean in the labor room itself.
Yeah.
Previously, we used to do in local anesthesia also. Long time back, when there was no anesthetist available at time.
So I mentioned prior also,
we also did one.
Whatever you do to save life of patient, and if you can prove by your documentation, it is always considered in court of law. It is always pardoned. But
can I ask a question?
You have to mention all this situation that no OT was available, and you will have to prove also with OT register, etc. that in that very OT this patient was being operated, in that OT that patient was being operated. So you will have to prove in court of law that no OT was available. Mere statement that OT was not available and I was helpless doesn't mean doesn't help you. But you will have to prove it. And meantime, whatever you can do best for the patient, you have to do.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Yaman.
So it was a case of fetal distress. How could the patient die? What is the complication for which patient died?
It's an hypothetical case where emergency cesarean section
okay, no. Hypothetical case must have some justification.
No,
a case of fetal distress in the trial of labor, how can the patient die?
No, it's only an indication that the cesarean was needed for
another cause was there for the death.
So you cannot just even excuse that OT was not available. You just can't give that an excuse in the court of law. That is not acceptable.
But as such, it is a real situation. That say, for example, just Neeraj said there are 9 OT and all the OTs are some surgery.
Where the patient was being monitored? Where the patient was in monitoring during labor? Where the patient was so long?
I mentioned, then in this situation, you have to take care whichever way you can take. But when OT is available, say for example, after 1 hour or so, and during that condition, if for any reason, condition of patient deteriorated and patient expired, then situation comes that why this happened and who is responsible.
No, even if this becomes a case of a fresh stillborn, one cannot give an excuse that the OT was not available. And if I happen to be the relatives of a patient, I'm the would-be father, do I accept that OT was not available? I could not make an emergency cesarean section, so I was helpless and seeing that the baby died in utero. Can I?
Sir, I'll give you the example. Bombay Hospital and Medical Research Center versus Asha Jaiswal, Supreme Court judgment, 30th 11/2021. Non-availability of operation theatre is not a valid ground to hold hospital negligent. I'm reading from that. So you have to, what I'm trying to say is, you need to prove that you took reasonable steps. What was reasonably possible, you have done that. If you can prove that circumstances were there, everything was busy at the time, because you advise the patient cesarean, the patient doesn't agree that time. My relative is coming, this is happening, that is happening, they are bringing the money, whatever the reason is. Indu Sharma case, Apollo Hospital, what happened? They were advised cesarean. They were just postponing. Now, when you want it done, you want everything to be ready at that time. This thing happened in PGI. There was one advocate couple, and they brought a child with inhalation of a foreign body. So the senior resident took consent and told them that while removing, death can also occur. They refused to give consent. She documented that yes, they have refused to give consent, and so routine IV fluids and all those kind of things were going on. Now, 2 hours, 3 hours later, after discussions with their relatives, then they decided to change their consent and say, now we want it done. Now, when they wanted it done, the things could not be organized and the child died. You get my point? So the situation at that time may not, when you are being advised, everything has been arranged for you. Sometimes you will not do. My point is simply, you have to prove to court under the circumstances you did the best you could. To guarantee that yes, death will not occur, that is not possible.
In other way, this is discussed like this also. Say, for example, Dr. X was in that very position. If Dr. Y would have been in that very position, what Dr. Y would have done?
Yes.
That way also in court consideration are taken.
No, what I wanted to mean actually that when the patient was under trial of a labor, she must have been in a aseptic condition in some observation table or labor room. And if a patient in labor room requires an emergency cesarean section, even if the OTs are not available, one can jolly well carry out the procedure in the labor table.
Agreed.
We have done on few occasions.
Agreed.
That can be documented.
But for that also, relative and patient should be well counseled that OT is not available. We are proceeding with cesarean section on labor table only. So patient and patient party should have knowledge that you are dealing with that very situation in labor room only.
And we are assuming this is a hospital with multiple doctors, because single doctor hospital, the doctor is already in OT with another patient.
Yeah. Yes, next.
Sir, good evening. Myself,
Yes,
Dr.
Amruta.
Rashmi. Thank you, Soya ma'am, for giving me this opportunity. My question is, a woman died after a hysterectomy due to accidental injury to the bowel, which went undetected during surgery. So I think this is not the case of the patient death on the table. So the post-operative care failed to identify and address the complications. So how should the accidental injury, they should be during surgery be managed, and what protocols should be in place for the post-operative care so that we could easily identify or early identification of the complications of the surgery?
So usually this type of problem happens in endoscopic surgery. So many cases I have also come across. So due to this energy source, there could be some thermal injury and it goes unnoticed, and after 1 or 2 days there could be perforation of bowel and patient complain of distension of abdomen or vomiting or any other, and then on further investigation it comes to know that there is a intestinal perforation. This is common situation in endoscopic surgery, and if it is diagnosed well in time, managed well in time, everything goes fine. Otherwise it becomes difficult situation. But not to have this this type of problem, or whenever you are facing this type of problem and allegation, usually first question come, whichever happened was preventable, and usually you cannot say no. So if you cannot say no, then one more question will come, what did you do to prevent it? And one more question, in spite of all your care and caution, if you couldn't prevent it, then why you couldn't prevent it, and when this complication happened, did you diagnose that complication well in time? And very important question will be, did you manage that complication way in which any prudent gynecologist or doctor would have managed? If you can answer all those questions, then in this situation, you could be out of problem.
So one more question on how to report these surgical errors there if you find out that.
So if at all any complications happens during surgery, post-operative counseling is equally important. Say for example, during cesarean section, there is injury to bowel or bladder. You are well versed with repairing of urinary bladder. You have suture bladder well. Even and naturally you are going to go for catheter for a longer period. So you will have to explain. So post-operative counseling is equally important, that this was happened, we have dealt with accordingly, and now these are the instructions. So it is very much important. If you do not explain, and if something goes wrong in future, then it will be very difficult for us to face in court of law. So post-operative counseling in case of complication is equally important.
If on second or third day we come to notice that yes, there is a distension of the abdomen.
Yes, just I mentioned, it is very common situation in TLH or so, endoscopic. On second day, third day, it happens. Or if there is a injury to ureter or so, second or third day, they will come up with leaking and formation of fistula. These are common situation in our practice.
Sir, should I add something?
Yes.
If such type of situation occur, अपने पॉकेट्स में से खर्चा करो, कुछ भी हो कॉम्प्लिकेशन तो अगर उनको कुछ पैसा मांगा तो they will against you. So that time I think we should pay for the consequences, or we should pay for the medicines.
There are two options. Either you have to manage that patient at your level only, with inviting other professional colleagues. Say for example, if it is a bowel injury, you can involve GI surgeon. If it is a bladder injury, of course you are well versed, fine. Otherwise you can involve urologist also. And in this situation, rightly said by Dr. Meenakshi, no further expense, no extra expense to the patient. So not to lose sympathy.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, welcome.
Yes, sir. Sir, in this, there's a patient of suspected ectopic pregnancy, and she was somehow misdiagnosed, leading to rupture of the ectopic and death due to internal hemorrhage. Now, the initial assessment failed to identify ectopic pregnancy. So, my question is, so what are the diagnostic steps that we should take for any patient for whom we suspect ectopic pregnancy? And once you diagnose it, how it is to be managed to prevent such type of mishaps?
So in my practice, when I was doing full-fledged obstetric, it was my routine. On very first visit of any patient, I always subjected patient for ultrasonography examination. And if you go with ultrasound examination, you can find ectopic pregnancy. Ectopic pregnancy, to diagnose, ultrasound is still gold standard, I would say. In experience, and ectopic pregnancy cannot be missed. And once you diagnose, then you can advise accordingly. If it is non-rupture, you can advise accordingly. If it is rupture, if it is an emergency, many times patient may be brought in an emergency, acute emergency with shock. Then in this situation, naturally you have to revive patient from shock, and you have to deal with situation accordingly. If it is rupture ectopic, go for laparotomy, blood transfusion, etc. And you manage. Whatever you do to save life of patient, and you document it well, and you present in court of law, you are always safe. Ultimate result not taken into consideration in court always, but your efforts to take care of patient, to save life of patient, are taken into consideration.
So sometimes what happens? Can I ask?
Yes.
Patient is having a very early pregnancy, say 4 weeks 3 days or 4 weeks 4 days, and a very small sac is seen, which is sometimes a pseudo type of ectopic pregnancy. And the patient is advised to come back for follow-up, but she doesn't come, and she lands a week later in some other hospital with an rupture ectopic. So at that time, does the onus lies now on the patient that they have not come for follow-up.
So on first visit, when you examine patient and you were not able to find it out, and you have mentioned your follow-up after 4 days, 5 days or so, and if patient doesn't turn up, then it becomes non-compliance on part of patient and it becomes contributory negligence on part of patient. If patient doesn't follow your instruction, you are not responsible for all the consequences happens to the patient. So patient should have followed your instruction. If patient would have been to you after 5 days or so, and if you have gone with ultrasound again, then you would have picked up that ectopic. So if patient doesn't follow, you should not be in a problem.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. But it should be documented. So whenever you advise that please come for follow-up after 5 days, and to be more cautious, we can mention if there is bleeding, if there is pain, please contact hospital immediately.
Yes.
And if patient doesn't turn up with pain or so, you are safe.
So the copy of OPD paper should be with us. That
Yes. One line like this instruction is many a time very much useful in our favor as far as this type of cases are concerned.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Good evening, sir. This is Dr. Kalpana Gulbade from Chandrapur. Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is a case on an intraoperative cardiac arrest. The case summary is that there is a 65-year-old lady who was undergoing hysterectomy for prolapsed uterus. Halfway through the surgery, the patient complained of chest pain and uneasiness. ECG showed changes of anterior wall MI. The patient was arrested on table and could not be revived. Now, the question which has been put forth is what documentation is required in cases of intraoperative cardiac arrest leading to death?
So in a previous discussion also we were discussing that in this situation, naturally anesthesiologist will be the captain of ship as far as resuscitation is concerned, and we gynecologists should join him. In this situation, when it is a cardiac arrest and when it shows that sign of MI, then naturally we have to involve cardiologist. So if cardiologist is available nearby, it is always better. If cardiologist is not available nearby, you can involve physician also. But somebody should be there to take care in that very situation. If during resuscitation, if it is a little sign of life, then with all escort emergency medicine, IV line, oxygen on, you can shift patient in nearby institution also. But first step is to resuscitate patient, because straightway without doing anything, when there is cardiac arrest, you cannot shift patient.
Yes, sir. So as you said that the physician, preferably a cardiologist, should always be involved.
Yes.
And I think the
Naturally.
documentation should be his notes or
Yes.
the doctor's notes for us to be safer.
Yes.
The second question is how should the surgical team handle communication with the patient's family in such situations?
So how to declare bad news, you mean?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So in this situation, it is a very difficult situation for any doctor to face relative to declare this type of bad news. So you can involve your other professional colleague at the time of declaring bad news. If at all you have apprehension, there could be knee-jerk reaction or relative may go hostile, you can inform police also at the time of declaring bad news. And main person that who is a captain means head of the team, should declare all these things, no junior person. And you should invite all the relative in your chamber, and you have to explain that this has happened. We have tried our level best, and in spite of all our efforts, we couldn't save patient. And to know exact cause of death, we advise to go for postmortem examination. So this is the only way to declare. But if some of your professional colleagues are there with you. So in any odd situation, they will be at your rescue.
Okay.
But in this
Thank you so much,
situation,
sir.
never confess that it was mistake on your part. Because many times, few of our friends have a habit, yes, we couldn't do this and this happened. No, not like this. Whatever happened is misfortune on part of patient and us also. We have tried our level best, but we are sorry we couldn't say. This should be our approach. So, in a sympathetic way, but in a assertive way. So, we have not to admit any kind of fault on our part because it becomes difficult in future also. One more thing, before declaring this type of bad news, when this has happened in OT, then first you have a word with your staff because it is very important thing because usual in this type of situation, usual habit of relative, they will ask to your Metrani or Aya Ben or your sister, what happened inside? So before declaring anything, you should call all your staff inside. You should say what happened, what you have done, and what should be the answer to the question asked by any of the relative. So no staff should be differ, or staff should simply say, we do not know anything, you ask doctor. This is the best answer. But in this situation, word with our staff is very important, and then only we have to declare death.
That is a very important tip, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Sir, should I ask one question?
Yes.
Suppose patient is aged. These cases are different, but suppose in case of aged patient, we may over counsel the patient about the heart problem or anything associated diabetes, hypertension, and in such type of cases there may be chances of EMI. In such situation, patient may say no to the surgery. He will not be ready for the surgery. But means such type of situation, how to counsel the patient? But we know the patient needs the surgery and there is a need for the surgery.
When we are dealing with this type of surgery with comorbidity, say for example diabetes or hypertension, naturally we have to explain about risk related to surgery with comorbidity. Straightway we cannot say, oh fine, everything will be okay. No, not that way. In any other patient who is not diabetic, who is not hypertensive, and patient with diabetes or with hypertension, naturally thing will be the different. So at the time of counseling, we have to mention that in this type of situation, there could be some risk. And before that, we should have opinion from physician or cardiologist as far as fitness related to surgery is concerned. So, and many times I had a habit that when I was operating this type of patient, I had a habit to keep physician present in the OT only because patient will pay for that. But if physician is with you at the time of surgery, it will be taken care if at all something goes wrong as far as medical part is concerned.
Sir, I want to ask should we inform police, try to inform the relatives regarding such cases?
No.
Like
I mentioned if you have apprehension that they may go hostile, then inform your professional colleague and police. Otherwise, you can declare death, and if at all something goes wrong, then you can inform police. But post-mortem examination should be advised if you are not sure of cause of death. Because many times what happens, they will ask for death certificate. And what is death certificate? Death certificate is not merely declaration of death that this patient expired at on. This is not death certificate. This is declaration of death certificate. Death certificate, you have to give cause of death also. Say for example, usually we write like this: cardiorespiratory arrest due to shock, due to PPH. So this is cause of death. So when you are sure of cause of death, fine. But when you are not sure of cause of death and you have a little doubt, then it is always to advise to go for postmortem examination.
It's not in all cases should go for the postmortem. In all cases of the, sir, in all cases of the patient death means on the table, we shouldn't go for the postmortem examination. Should we go for postmortem examination?
Then if you are sure of cause of death, it is not at all necessary that in each every case we have to go for postmortem examination. But when we advise postmortem examination from our side, then it shows that we are not at all going to hide anything. And when we say, for example, if it is a case of amniotic fluid embolism, and we are sure that it is case of amniotic fluid embolism, but even then, if you advise postmortem examination, and from postmortem examination, if cause of death comes that it was case of amniotic fluid embolism, it becomes easier for you to face in court of law. So whichever cause of death is given by you is endorsed by postmortem examination.
Yes. But sometimes situation may occur. Should I ask?
Yes, yes.
Sometimes situation may occur. Relatives are not ready for the postmortem, and then after a few days they may file the case, and that time there is a necessity for the PM report.
So
And that's why we have
patients'
to counsel
relative are
them.
not ready to go for postmortem examination, many a time they are ready to give in writing that we are not
they give in writing.
willing to go for postmortem examination. We are not interested to know cause of death. But this type of writing doesn't give you immunity in court of law. And your job is to inform police. Your job is not to convince relative. Because once you inform police, custody of that very dead body is with police. And now police has to do necessary thing. You have not to convince a relative to go for postmortem examination.
Yes.
So the police is going to convince the relatives, sir, to go for a
That is up
postmortem.
to police what he has to do.
Okay. But in this particular,
I would like to mention one incident which happened in city of Ahmedabad only few months back. It was case of cesarean section. Patient was discharged in due course. Patient was fine post-operatively. On 7th day, patient had been to hospital for follow-up and for dressing. So on dressing table, for any reason, there was sudden cardiac arrest. Doctor tried to resuscitate, but he couldn't. And relative were hostile. In Ahmedabad, we have rush team. Ahmedabad is big city, so in each area we have rush team. So in that very area, rush team, he had a phone call to 1 or 2 gynecologists. And within 1 hour, you won't believe, 150 gynecologists were there at that very hospital. And I was also there. We informed police. Then relative were not ready to go for postmortem examination. But we had informed police. Police had arrived. That is up to police. So in this situation, many a time, police will insist you to give cause of death. Doctor, छोड़ो ना, postmortem नहीं करना है, relative are not ready, you give cause of death. Never succumb this type of request on part of police also when you are not sure of cause of death. So in this situation, just I was mentioning, police informed magistrate. It was middle of night. He informed magistrate. Magistrate came at middle of night. And magistrate had a statement from all the relative of patient. And in that statement, relative mentioned that we do not want to go for postmortem examination. We do not want to know cause of death. And we have no complaint against anybody, including doctor or hospital. And then dead body was given to the relative. In this situation, doctor was saved only due to rusting.
so if they do not want to go for a postmortem and the police also does not insist on it,
Once we have informed police, our job is over.
Okay.
And we should be in a position to prove that we had informed police. Because many times what happens, police will say, you never informed. So once we inform police, when police comes to our hospital, and if you have CCTV camera, then it will be recorded in camera also that police has come, you have discussion with police. So you can prove in court of law that you had informed police and police has arrived. Then after, if postmortem is not done, that is up to police. You are safe once you have informed.
Okay. Thank you.
But in this situation, word of caution, these are the potential conditions as far as litigation is concerned. So after managing all this, you have to prepare your record very carefully. With fresh memory, you have to prepare. As far as resuscitation part is concerned, as far as note of other professional colleagues who are involved in treatment of that very patient, and step by step, time wise, date, time. And one thing should be very clear. There should not be contradiction of record of yours and your professional colleague. Say, for example, in your record, you have mentioned pulse 120. And in that point of time, other professional colleague has mentioned pulse is 200. Then it will be difficult in court of law to prove. So there should not be contradiction. So before you hand over any record to anybody, have a quick look about all the records given by your professional colleague and prepared by yourself. And at the same time, see nursing chart also. Nursing chart should also tally with your instruction. Otherwise, these small points go against in you at the time of facing litigation.
Okay.
Exactly how much time do we have?
Sir, this is the last question, sir.
Okay.
Okay,
No, I have no question. Yes, Vijay.
Yes, sir. The situation is that the 18-year-old girl was undergoing lap cystectomy under spinal anesthesia. 5 minutes after the injection of antibiotic, she suddenly developed breathlessness and frothing at mouth and died of aspiration. The question is that what are the medical legal implications of an intraoperative allergic reaction that was not noted in the patient's history, and how should allergic reactions be managed and documented intraoperatively?
So as far as history part is concerned, at the time of taking history, one question I have a habit to ask to the patient, are you on any drug? One, the patient might be taking some drug. Second thing, have you any allergy or any substance or any drug? If patient gives history, fine. If patient say no, then we have to mention that no history of drug reaction or no drug allergy or no history of any medicine. So if we have mentioned like this and some drug reaction happened, then it is considered in court of law. But when it happens, what efforts you took to save life of patient are taken into consideration. So immediately you have to go for resuscitation naturally, and whatever you have done, it should be well documented. Say, for example, you have given steroid, you have given oxygen, you have started IV line, or you have involved your professional colleague. So everything should be mentioned in record. It shows your consent to save life of patient, because allergic reaction of any drug can happen to anybody at any place. But once it happens, because complication per se is not negligence, but once complication happens, if you do not diagnose in time, if you do not manage that complication by way in which any prudent gynecologist would have done, then you could be in trouble. So even in this type of situation also, you have to manage case accordingly. But one thing may come, that usually we go with injection atropine before surgery or before procedure. So this should also be mentioned, not to have anaphylactic reaction also. Because if you are not given atropine and some smart advocate on part of prosecution goes with all this record to any doctor, and if any doctor says this in this situation, better atropine should have been given, then it could be a point for discussion in court. So be careful in this type of situation.
Okay.
As well as standard protocols also, like xylocaine sensitivity test, as well. Any drug after giving test dose, that is also important. Means we have to write in our pre-op orders also.
So we should treat any patient as per SOP. Standard guideline we have to follow. And if you have treated any patient as per standard guideline, whether it is by ICOG, whether it is by FOXI, whether it is by RCOG, it is always considered in court of law that you had treated patient as per standard guideline. I would like to mention one case which was happened, that in that very case, patient had a fever during antenatal period. And ultimately, a patient went into labor, patient delivered, and in due course, baby went CP. And case was filed. And allegation was, torch was not advised during antenatal period. It was the allegation on part of patient. So in this case, we went with that there is no protocol in FOXY or in RCOG that torch is routine investigation during pregnancy. And we put FOXY guideline also. And with that FOXY guideline, in that very case, judgment came in favor of doctor. So if we go with any guideline as far as treatment part is concerned, and if we can prove that this is the guideline to treat that very patient in this situation, and if we have treated this patient this way, and if we prove it by documentation, we are out of problem. So I think I have justified my role.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All the points covered,
Thank you.
sir. And
Thank you. Thank you.
actually,
So before we conclude, my
Yes,
humble
sir.
appeal to all of you. This year I am contesting for post of President FOXY and working FOXY for years together and helping so many of our FOXYan friends in odd medical legal crisis. I seek your blessing, support, and good wishes. Please consider my seniority. Please consider my dedication. Please consider my easily availability, down to earth approach, and easily availability in any medical legal or crisis. Please vote me.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Please
sir.
support me.
Sir is the
Yes,
most
sir. All the
Session will be
approachable
from 1st
person.
August to 10 August. And on 1st August only you go with voting.
Yes,
Do
sir.
not keep to vote for next day.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a
Sir,
lot.
all the best to you, sir.
Thank you.
And
Thank you. Thank you.
we hope you win
Thank
by
you,
a
sir.
huge
Thank
margin.
you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining, sir. And
Yes.
I thank all the panelists for staying up to 7:45 and giving all the inputs and all. I really appreciate your efforts and your presence over here. And thank you so much, sir, and all the panelists and all those who are attending this webinar today. And I think with this, we take the leave and hoping to see you all in future also. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And once again, I thank Corona Remedies for giving us this platform. And thank you, Bhavna, for being a good host. I also thank Dr. Amruta for conducting this program so well. And also Dr. Monica for assisting me in coordinating all the things. And I thank all the faculties and all the chairpersons and Dr. Kiran sir also and all the guests, especially Dr. Jyoti madam and Dr. Shamal Seth sir, Dr. Nakpal sir, Dr. Anita Sabarwal madam, Dr. Meenakshi Deshpande madam, Dr. Girish Kumtekar sir, Dr. Varsha Ghate madam and Dr. Manisha Ghate madam, all the panelists, especially moderating the panel, Dr. MC Patel sir, panelists, Dr. Vijay Shinde sir, Dr. Pratibha madam, Dr. Saili, Dr. Prachi, Dr. Kalpana, Dr. And Dr. Rashmi, and I think Dr. Kanchan was not there. The rest, all the panelists were there, and we had great inputs from all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Can I make a request? Like, can we get a recorded session of this webinar?
I'll ask. I will ask Bhavna if there is.
Yes, sir. There is a recorded session in YouTube also. I'll share the link.
Yeah.
And we do have it on our Core Connect portal also.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Please do share.
Yeah, I'll share it in the group.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you all.